So the 20th century reached its halfway point just in time for another war to begin. On June 25, 1950, the Korean War began as North Korean troops crossed the 38th parallel and invaded South Korea. 20 nations got involved as the United Nations moved to defend South Korea, which was a democratic nation. North Korea is communist. South Korea is democratic. China backed North Korea. The United States forces were led by General Douglas MacArthur, and when MacArthur wanted to continue to take the war into China, President Harry Truman refused and replaced him with Matthew Ridgway. Now, when we talk about Korea, the Korean War, two key terms that we need to discuss: stalemate and demilitarized zone. The beginning of the war, as I said, North invades South. North Korea, communist. South Korea, democracy. You can see the Cold War coming right here. Truman ordered the use of American troops as police action. No, Korea is not officially a war. It was never declared as a war by the U.S. Congress. It's a police action. The goal was to contain communism. Communism was attempting to spread into a democratic society in South Korea. The United States had put together the policy of containment. So Truman asks the United Nations to send forces, in which they agreed under the direction of the United States and General MacArthur. And as I said, 20 nations sent troops. So this little video clip will show you a little bit more about how the United States became involved.
Korea is a small country, thousands of miles away. But what is happening there is important to every American. On Sunday, June 25th, Communist forces attacked the Republic of Korea. Free nations must be on their guard, more than ever before, against this kind of sneak attack.
Within hours of the invasion, President Truman ordered supplies rushed to Korea, and our World War II planes and ships prepared for war. Two days later, the United Nations Security Council authorized member nations to send troops to stop the North Koreans. For the first time in history, a world organization voted to create an armed force to stop armed force. Russia was absent from the balloting. Without consulting Congress, the President backed the UN resolution with planes, ships, tanks, guns, men and women. America was at war.
So the end. By January 1951, remember, this is just 6 months from when North Korea had invaded. Within 6 months, the United Nations forces had pushed North Korea across the 38th parallel and was in a stalemate. That's a key term. There was no movement from either side. This stalemate lasted 2 years. Now, even though it's a stalemate, it is still a war, or a police action from the United States viewpoint. My grandfather was in Korea. He calls it a war. July 27th, 1953, the two sides created a demilitarized zone in which no military could enter the 1.5-mile zone. Now, this is a map of pre-war Korea, and this is a map of post-war Korea. As of right now, the Korean War is still happening. There has been no peace negotiations. There has been no end of the fighting. Instead, they created a demilitarized zone and they paused the fighting. As I said, a truce. This is what the border looks like right now. But there still is no official end to the Korean War. The results of the Korean War: 54,000 American dead, 103,000 wounded. 2 million Koreans and Chinese were killed. But more importantly than the numbers was the statement. The statement to the Soviet Union was the United States is committed to fighting communism. It does not matter the cost, whether it's money, arms and ammunitions, or American lives. We will stop communism.